Most gurus tell you to chase cash flow, but the reason I was able to retire at the age of 31 wasn't the cash flow from real estate. It was instead due to ghost income, the invisible money that builds up on paper that made me a millionaire. Today, I'm going to walk you through the 3 invisible paychecks that real estate hands you that the IRS doesn't want you to know about. These 3 paychecks are what I call the 3 wealth multipliers. First, you need to understand this wealth versus time chart, which demonstrates how you make money in real estate. This is your real estate net worth over time. The first thing here is we have this line that goes upwards linearly, which we call real estate appreciation, which is the first wealth multiplier. Normal appreciation is between 3 to 7% per year, depending on which market you're investing in. Let's say we invest in a great neighborhood that has a 5% appreciation. Here's the cool part about real estate investing. Because we use something called leverage, we essentially, instead of making a 5% return on the appreciation, we're actually making a 25% return on our investment per year, which basically means that you double your money every 4 years. Let me explain. I'm going to go ahead and use some easy numbers. Let's say you buy a $100,000 house. However, usually you don't buy a house outright. You put a 20% down payment on it and the bank or lender funds the rest. So 20% down on a $100,000 property is $20,000. Now let's say the annual appreciation on this house is about 5%. That means it goes up $5,000 every single year. Now here's the magic part. Let's say we divide that $5,000 appreciation by our initial down payment of $20,000. Now your return on investment is not just 5%, it's actually 25% because 5,000 divided by 20,000 is 25%. And that's because 20% down is a 1 to 5 lever. 20% is a fifth of 100%. So whatever your appreciation is, you multiply it by 5. 5% appreciation multiplied by 5 becomes 25% return on your investment. And if you get 25% return each year times 4 years, that means after those 4 years, you have 100% return on investment, meaning you literally double your money every 4 years. How amazing is that? And that's just from the appreciation on a house. The next thing we have is this red line here that goes down slowly at first, but then accelerates exponentially over time until it reaches 0. This is called your loan pay down. The reason why it's called loan pay down is because every month your tenants are paying down your mortgage. And part of that mortgage payment goes towards paying off the principal balance on the loan you have. Loan paydown is considered the second wealth multiplier. Once your principal balance on the loan goes to 0, then you own the entire home, free and clear. Now go ahead and guess what this green area is on the graph. If you guessed equity, then you are correct. We call this equity because it's how much of the house you actually own versus what the bank owns. You find the total equity by adding up your appreciation to the amount you gain by paying down your mortgage. Next we have income stream number 3, which is the one that everyone talks about, which is cash flow. Cash flow can be calculated by using the following equation. Rental income minus your mortgage payment minus your expenses. So your cash flow is basically the money that you get in your pocket at the end of every month after you subtract out your monthly mortgage and your expenses. Building up $10,000 or more per month in cash flow is how people can retire by buying enough rentals, because your portfolio can grow large enough to actually replace your W-2 income. Now, before we move on to the last wealth multiplier, let me give you an actual example and the raw data on how much one of my rentals made in 2025. I call it my Bonnie house. So let's first calculate the Bonnie house's annual appreciation. I bought it for $385,000 in July of 2019. Right now, in April of 2026, it is worth $508,000 according to estimates on Redfin, as you can see on the screen right here. So when I subtract the two values, 508,000 by 385,000, I get a $123,000 gain. That $123,000 gain is over the course of 7 years, which means my appreciation is $17,571 per year on average. Next, we have to calculate out the equity. I'll show up on my screen the mortgage statement for April of this year, which shows that I have $185,390 left in principal balance. Now let's go ahead and compare it to 1 year earlier, which was April of 2025. The April 2025 mortgage statement shows a principal balance of $202,480. So I just have to subtract those two numbers, and it means that I made $17,090 per year. And that's equity from the loan paydown. Finally, we have to figure out the cash flow. So my rental income for 2025 was $41,720 for that year, as you can see on the screen. My mortgage payments, as you can see on my mortgage statement, is about $2,437 a month, which is $29,240 a year. And it's on a 15-year loan. I put all these numbers on the whiteboard as well. Finally, my total expenses for the Bonnie house was $5,629 for the year of 2025, as you can see on the screen as well. So if we take the total rent and subtract out the annual mortgage payment and expenses, that brings me to a total cash flow of $6,853 a year. Obviously, this is a house I wanted to pay off fast because I did a 15-year instead of a 30-year loan, and this house was mainly an appreciation play versus a cash flow play. Now let's go ahead and add up the three sources of income: the $17,571 from appreciation, the $17,090 per year in loan paydown, and the $6,853 a year in cash flow. And that gives me the overall return of $41,514 a year. Now, my initial down payment, as you can see at the very bottom here, was $77,000. So my annual return on investment on that down payment is 54%, which I'm very happy with, of course. And the house will be fully paid off by 2034, so my cash flow will jump up dramatically when that happens. But wait, there's more to the story. We have our third wealth multiplier, which we haven't talked about yet. The third and final wealth multiplier that we haven't talked about yet is a massive tax benefit that the IRS gives real estate investors, which is called depreciation. The IRS assumes the house loses value every single year, and they give you back that lost value every year as a tax break, even though we all know that houses actually appreciate over the years. Since the IRS assumes that the house will depreciate to $0 over 27.5 years, in order to calculate the annual depreciation, you take the purchase price of the house, subtract out the land value because land value doesn't depreciate, which leaves you with the building value, and then you divide that by 27.5 years to get your annual depreciation. Let me give you an example on the whiteboard to make things easier. So I bought the Bonnie house for $385,000. Then I figured out my property land value on the county assessor website, which was $131,235. I take that land value and subtract it from my purchase price to get my building value, which means there's $253,765 in building value, and then I divide that by 27.5 years. Which gives me $9,228 that I can depreciate every single year. Depreciate means you can deduct it from your profits. So basically my first $9,200 in profits is not taxed every year. I pay zero taxes on that. If my tax rate is about 30%, that means I save about $2,700 a year in taxes. And that's just from the depreciation. Now this property focused on maximizing appreciation and the loan paydown. I have other properties that maximize cash flow instead, which can be pretty useful if you're just getting started in real estate investing. And the best way I found to maximize cash flow is using the rent by the room student housing method, where you take a house, divide up into bedrooms, and then rent out each bedroom to college students. Now there are several advantages to this method. It's much more affordable for a college student to rent out a room for $700 to $800 per month in rent versus paying the college dormitories $1,200 to $1,300 and having to live with a roommate, pay for a meal plan, and that's just so much more expensive for the college student, and that's why you always get high student housing demand. This method also thrives during a recession because people go back to school when there are no jobs out there. They want to gain more skills. In the 2008 recession, student enrollment went up 16%. Thirdly, parents co-sign on the lease and serve as backup for their kid if the student didn't pay. Plus, if there's any damage done to the house, mom and dad are on the hook because they co-sign on the lease. Fourthly, word spreads fast on the college campus, so if you do a really good job in providing high quality, affordable student housing, you'll get a lot of tenant referrals, which means very low to no vacancy. And after you build up your reputation, you don't even need to market your rentals at a certain point. Now, here's the really cool part about this. If you stop trying to sell the whole house and instead sell the spaces inside the house, which are your bedrooms, you will have an edge on your competition who are struggling to make cash flow in today's market, because rent by the room student housing typically doubles or triples the rental income on a property. And in my next video, I'll break it all down for you. Rent by the room versus traditional rentals. I run the math side by side so that you can decide what's the best strategy for you. If you want to know what strategy maximizes the wealth multipliers all at the same time, you need to watch this video next. It's right up here. Go ahead and click on the link. And of course, if you enjoyed this video, don't forget to like, subscribe, and share it with your friends who are struggling with getting started in real estate investing. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.